the collection, let me rephrase. This was the kind of collection that I was looking forward to for this workshop. Something that was easy to read, but not easy on the brain, on the mind. The poet knows his sentences, his language, and he knows how to use them to philosophize. So you see, small idea. He ruminates on so many things and takes on, acquires the vitality of different kinds of. He becomes. He creates different personae, that help us, ruminate on the nature of existence. My favorite here is the first, measurements, which is, as Neil has mentioned, is an art poetica. Flawless. I just have a question about the last line, of the preciseness of things. Will it make a difference if we use precision? I'm not so sure, but the poet, for me, has made a choice, and I respect that. I love this. It's birthed from a place of guilt. That's the other one that I am asking myself if it's the best word, but nonetheless, okay sa akin, yung choice niya. I like the variety, the linguistic variety offered by the poet in the collection. As you can see, he knows how to, manipulate sentences, short fragments, different kinds of sentences. Even a play with punctuation marks. There are two poems here that actually do not have periods, right? And so my question is, will the poem's integrity change if we put a period at the end of the sentences? My hunch is that it won't make a difference, and therefore putting the comma, putting the period would be okay. Parang, is it really important that there's no period at the end of the sentences? So I think, I'm inviting the writer to mull over that. Okay, is it really necessary? Okay. Number two, I was a bit, this is what Mr. Nico already mentioned, the form of the Japanese coastline. I think okay lang na isang break siya, coastline, di ba? But is the poet going to play with the we? Parang parang Gwendolyn Brooks. We real cool, we. But I don't think there's enough room for that, given the structure already, given the ideas in place. Will it matter if we put the we, if we push the if we beginnings, at the beginning of each stanza? I mean, of each thought unit, so that if we would all be appearing flush left. Okay? And last, the Butuan gangsters. I'm not so sure. For me, this is the weakest poem. It's a very, very easy ending. Parang after all the philosophical rumination, you give me this wish, not have enough points. Right? Parang, I don't think, I also feel it's among the poems in the collection, this is the one that approximates prose the most. But that's just me being me a bitch, right? Baka bitch lang ako or something. Pero feeling ko kasi may isang pirma na lang, prose na. So,
what is that? Sorry, I wasn't.
The Butuan gangsters.
Okay, yes.
Are they so mean they serve prose? Okay, so ito parang feeling ko it doesn't feel poetic enough yet to be compared to the others. Gumaganon siya. So I invite the writer to work on it or to rethink the form, the line cuts, ordination, the rhythm of the poem, and of course, the images. Kasi ang maganda sa tula nung mo ay nag-soar siya, no? Meron kang you have your way of making language soar to also approximate the philosophical ruminations in the poem. This one does not. No, it actually is. It approximates what it's supposed to do. Let the coins fall, no? Pero hindi na maganda yun, di ba? Parang it doesn't fly. This one, no? Parang maybe you can consider that. Okay, I like the ending of Heritage. Maganda yun. So generally, I am so happy. Whenever this collection, I'm Howie na. Kasi mature na yung writer, no? Kasi dapat our vision, our language must match our vision, no? And among the collections that I've read, this is the one where there is the smallest disparity between the two, and so I congratulate.
Hello po. With regards dun sa suite ni Alfonso, I fell in love with it. I loved reading it. It's a very smart collection. Yun nga, very intelligent. With regards dun sa register of words, usually I'm medyo may ako doon. Pero the thing is, it's very consistent in such a way that I just immerse myself into reading this person's thoughts. So, among all of the pieces, I also like The Moon Addresses Her Enemies. I think it's a very sassy, it's a very sassy piece, so I can really feel the voice of the poet shining there. But with regards to measurements, I like the integration of wittiness in the piece. For example, how the last line of the preciseness of things is the most imprecise line structurally among all of the stanzas. So for me, I felt that it was very playful. Ang is, for me, I guess maybe it's because it's not found here, but coming from Mindanao, as a Mindanaoan poet, I would also really love to see more about Butuan rather than just Suko, which I also know, and everyone I think in Mindanao and Cebu also knows about Suko, but there's something deeper with Suko than just the word anger, Suko. So for me, for example, I tested that sort of challenge in seeing Alfonso as a Mindanaoan poet with regards to dun sa Butuanan gangsters. However, this is where I sort of felt that I guess maybe there is this examination of yourself slowly becoming a foreigner to your own city in a way. Like for example here, you have this sentiment of wanting to give money to your hometown, wanting to give street children your coins. So in a way, it felt, for me personally, I felt that it is how, like when you go to syudad, punta ka sa Manila, so, sa mga, for example, kapag ako taga-Sama noon, ngayon taga-Davao na, and then you look back, you want to really help your family back there in the island or in the rural areas, and then you have this very parang pagkapatron mo na thoughts that slowly, I guess, I can see it here. So, perhaps it is also indeed an examination of you moving to Manila from Butuan. But yes, so I'm really hoping that with your capacity already, with your set style, that I'd see more about Butuan as well. And I've been there, and they're very happy because they have a mall now. So, nagsaselebrate sila, yes. Di ba? Mga Butuan talaga. G-Mall, Gaisano. Oo. Yes, yun, ang dami. Anyway, sorry. Also, with reading the piece, the poems remind me a lot, or perhaps it's because of your influences, a lot of American writers of color. Perhaps, like, I see Sally Wenmao, I see Ocean Vuong, yung mga linguistic tendencies mo, such as, which is to say, or how. I see it in a lot of color, writers of color in the US. So, I think it's just something that I noticed. I don't think that it's a good, very good thing or a very bad thing. So, wala lang, napansin ko lang siya. But yeah, it's a really solid collection, very smart, and I'd love to read a book of yours definitely one day. Thank you.
Mag-start na ako sa spontaneous human combustion. Since marami nang nasabi about this poem, I think for me, I'd like to describe this one as a beautiful prose with line cutting. Kasi I think it works for me as a prose and spoken poetry rather than written poetry for me. And then sa Japanese coastline, I like that it's somehow rhetorical kasi it's like it leaves something sa readers to think about because parang serious siya ng questions and medyo curious lang ako kasi sa Hotel Luna, parang it talks about colonizers and oppression and how we try to please our colonizers, something like that. And then biglang you talk about the bombing of the in Japan, something like that, or that's how I understand it. And then it's like, why the sudden sympathy for the Japanese who also, you know, occupied the Philippines, something like that. I'm just curious. And then gusto ko rin yung yung first person point of view ng The Moon Addresses Her Enemies kasi it works because the persona is very authoritative. And then since na as gay, I feel like I am associated with the moon. I feel like I take pride that I am associated with something powerful because of this piece na you've established authority and dominance sa moon, and then it tries to bring down the patriarchy, something like that. Favorite ko yung yung Butuan Gangsters kasi there's a softness in the poem, and then I like na merge mo yung parang superficial magic factor, which is like the coin na parang may superstition na pag nakakita ka ng coin, and then you integrated that with something real, which is like poverty. So it's interesting to find that combination in that poem. Yeah.
Hello everyone. Okay, first, I want to praise the poet for his arrangement of the collection on the page and aurally. So there's that, there's this sonic component that I love. And also, parang the poet is very self-aware, has control, does not want to fall into these traps. Parang, and you can feel that kind of control. So like, for example, the arrangement on the page. So the first poem is Ars Poetica, but also is an elegy because it begins with, "Here lies the crane." Diba? So what's this, right? The second is an elegy. I'll go back to that for, like the ending, where should it end? The third and the fifth are lyric sequences. The first lyric sequence, number 3, has the tourist gaze. Number 5, the fifth lyric sequence is a migrant gaze, right? The emphasis there is about the Bisaya word for anger is suko. Suko. I live in a city whose language desecrates my native tongue. Kasi here it's suko, which is to surrender. Diba? So you have that entire migrant thing going on, living in a different city. The fourth one, I like that he placed the Japanese coastline between two lyric sequences. Diba? Kamura-mura yan eh. You know, yung talagang alam niya kung saan pumitik. How. So there's a choreography that I see here, and that's why I want to emphasize the self-awareness. And also, this Japanese coastline is also very Japanese because these questions are koans. There are questions, there are meditations that cannot be answered. Diba? If, parang, ano yun? What is the sound of one hand clapping? And then here, if we found a way to reverse engineer the bomb, to gather all its ammunition in our cupped and careful hands until it is small enough to airlift home, will it also reverse engineer the bombing? What's your answer to that? Diba? So lahat yan, sinabi nga ng isang fellow, rhetorical. Diba? But it's very Japanese. These are koans. These are questions that you really can't answer. Kind of like that song by the New Radicals, Someday We'll Know, You'll Never Know. Basically, ganon. So it follows that same kind of form. The sixth one is a dramatic monologue. And here, you have the change of voice, di ba? So you have this poet persona doing the politics, etc., etc. Then suddenly, nag-shift siya ng gender, nag-shift siya ng voice. Right? So it's a dramatic monologue, which is the favorite of everyone here. And then the seventh is the Butuan, no? Gangsters, is a short lyric, and it's a locale poem. So, nandun tayo sa locale, which transitions into the eighth poem, which is a long lyric and a self-portrait. Diba? So, meron talagang intention. Diba? You can feel the intention. We were looking at several collections today, and sometimes we would start in the middle, diba? We would start in and then the power of the poet, especially a very self-aware poet, is to control the attention of the reader on the page, as in, ito talaga yung first page. We will look at the first poem. If you can do that, that's already half the battle won. When even if your readers and critics agree that this is the first poem that we want to read, so nandun siya. Okay, let's go to the revisions. Neil was very eloquent already had said everything about the themes, but I want to look at the elegy, spontaneous human combustion. I feel like it ends with, if I come out as lucky, luck holds no power here. There are no smoke alarms inside the gas chamber, which is to say, what dies is meant to die. Tapos na. After that, in the intersection of souls, ayoko na. Diba? Parang, I don't know if other panelists and fellows will agree with me. When I read it to the end of the page, I felt great.
Anticlimactic na siya.
Yeah. Tapos nung nagsalita na siya about, no, ayoko. I don't want to go to the intersection. I don't even want to go there. I don't want to go and end with, in how the living is left to clean up what greasy, fetid mess we leave behind. And I can't accept that. I can't accept the greasy, fetid mess. Diba? Parang, no.
But
This is
if
just
we
beautiful.
cut it there, then mawawala yung idea niya of how the acid holes in my stomach have been written, everything is like fated, there's no escape
Yeah.
to it. I think it's probably
Rearrange?
Rearrange and take the what is meant to die and put it at the end.
Yeah. Sige, pwede rin yun.
Yun lang. Ganun lang. Kasi yun yung pinakamagandang ending eh.
Yeah. Yeah. Diba? Parang ang ganda-ganda ng ending eh. Which is to say, what dies is meant to die. Wala na akong masabi after that. I will not struggle. It's true. Diba? Parang, it's true. And I like
It's so
that.
awful.
It's beautiful. I don't know what awful is anymore. Maybe I really have a problem with my judgment. I don't know what awful and beautiful is. Maybe they're the same thing for me. Yeah, I have to work on that. Heritage of all the poems, the two poems that I love, our heritage and Japanese coastline. Yung Japanese coastline, because of its brevity and the tricks that it uses, I like that. Talagang matalino siya. Pwede. Di ba? Parang sarap niyang sabulutan, which I will do later. Di ba? Heritage, on the other hand, because the poet has so much control and ang last ng restraint niya, he didn't want to fall into any traps. So as a reader, a little way in is beautiful. The revelation of the human being, diba? The family. Whether the family, if this is a real family or not, I don't care. Diba? But the fact that there are characters here and not just ideas, maganda siya in the collection to end. Diba? With something like, parang the poet is so aware na parang, ito, gagawin ko to. You think I'm all like this. No, I'll give you this. Diba? I can feel that, I can see that, and I will praise that. So, thank you so much for submitting this collection.
Let's hear